Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another experiment for you guys, and that is still playing around with the ladders. Alright, so I saw the comments, liked what I saw, and I want to test the ladder system a little more based on what we experienced from the last experiment while riding one of these bad boys with the ladders. So Surviving Pertam, The Wastelands will be back next week, next Thursday. Hopefully I'll get the time lapse up and running as soon as possible. But today I'm going to get some experiments done for you guys, and we are going to play around with the ladder system some more. So previous experiment, we found out that we can ride like this by remoting in, but we do fall off of it eventually, especially if we jolt a little too much, as you see here. So of course, we want to test out if it will knock us off if we were to go in these ladder systems on rotors, on hinges, on pistons, everything like that. So first big test, of course, is this rotor system. Alright, so this whole rotor system here is remote controllable too, and I can remote in, and to make it a little easier for viewing purposes, I'm just going to go to my spectator cam and see how that's gonna work out. Okay, so the rotor on the bottom here is controlled by my 5, 6, and 7 here, and what I'm gonna do is increase the speed of the rotation by hitting 6 or 7. Either one, doesn't really matter. It's just one's reverse, one's positive, one's negative. That's all it is. So if we hit the initial positive rotation, as you can see, I pop right off. So it's a bit interesting. So once you throw it straight into the 3 RPMs, you tend to just fall right off. So I guess that's part of the whole jolting, or whatever the case may be, aspect of it. So once again, if I were to go the opposite way, I just come right off of it as well. So it's just the way it's kind of, I would kind of say jolting, and it won't let you and it'll pop you right off the ladder, but as well it won't even let me back on the ladder while it's spinning. That's a bit of the issue here with this whole ladder system. However, if we were to go into the mending system, go to our hinge, which is this one here, and actually let me see if I can get a slightly better view. So right in front of us is a little hard to see because everything's blocking it, but if I were to increase the velocity slowly by hand with this here, starting with the point something RPMs, we're going close to 1. I'm not falling off just yet. So that's a key thing. If I slowly slide it even faster to the 3 RPMs where it initially knocked me right off of it, when I go from 0 to 3 RPMs, but if you slowly slide the slider here, even all the way to, I think the maximum is 30 RPMs, right there, and you just spin around in circles and you're not falling off of it. So that's the trick here. I think it's basically not necessarily the speed of the rotation or the speed that knocks you off of it. It's those quick jolty motions, like from 0 to a quicker speed like 3 RPMs, that tends to kind of just knock you right off. So we can continue testing that some more by going back to that piston and going straight to 0, and that knocked me right off. So that's pretty interesting there. Alright, so let's further test this, and what we can do, unfortunately we just gotta do it from the menu side of it, is basically we're gonna increase the velocity by hand. So let's just say 0.5. That doesn't knock you off of it, so that's good. If we go to 1 RPM, that knocks you off of it, so that's interesting. So if you go from 0 to 1 RPM, you come right off of the ladder for whatever reasons, and again, you can't come back into it for whatever reasons too. So we need to get rid of this. Alright, get back to the ladder, and let's get back to the control. And let's see here. So 0.5 works. Let's see if we could do anything else. 0.75. That works too. So that doesn't knock you off. 0.80 does not knock you off. Go back to 0. 0.9. Doesn't do anything. 0.95 doesn't do anything. What if we did 0.99 and that knocks you off? Okay, so that is the jolting movement that kind of knocks you off. 0.99. We could probably dial down a little bit more if we wanted to. So if we were to release that and go right into it again. Okay, so we're gonna do, let's try 0.96 first. Nope, that works fine. What about 0.97? That's fine. 0.98. Oop, that's 98. 0.98. And I am off of it. Actually, was I off of it on 0.97? Alright, so let's try it one more time. Was it 0.97? Would that knock me off of it? 0.97. Yeah, 0.97 knocked me off of it. So, do we want to go even further than this? Well, at least we can go back into it at 0.97. So that's interesting. So, let's go back to 0 really quick. Nope, that knocked me off. Interesting. Okay. So, 0.97 seems to be the issue. So, 0.96 works fine. So, what we do 0.965. Oh, that knocked me off. I guess that kind of rounded to 0.97 in that way. And just for testing purposes, we're going to try it again. We're going to do 0.96. Yeah, that works fine. So, oop, that stopping doesn't work fine. And that's a bit of an issue. Alright, so again, we can try to do 0.962. And that knocks me off. Okay, so we're getting close to what we need to find out. And what is that kind of threshold? I'm not going to go too far into this whole testing, but I just want to get a close idea of what's going on here. So if we go to 0.961, we come off. Okay. So I'm starting to think 0.96 is pretty much the threshold until unless we're going to get even further into some additional decimal points, but I kind of don't want to do that because it's going to be a while. But for the most part, 0.96, oh no, 0.96 does knock me off. So it sounds like it's kind of hit or miss here. So that's an issue. But I think 0.95 might be good. Nope. Yep, well, we get an... Okay, so it's around 0.95, between 0.95 and 0.96. Less than 1 RPMs to allow us to do something like that. So, do we want to test it on a vertical standpoint? I think, for the most part, the vertical standpoint would be very similar to the 0.96, but we can always try it. Let's just start with this one here, which is 0.96. If we get knocked off, yep, we get knocked off. That's not good, and I can't get back on. Alright, so if I do 0.95, oh, that knocks me off. Interesting. So there's a bit of a difference here when it comes to being horizontal versus vertical. Unless it's just more of a random hit or miss kind of thing again. So let's see here. Can we go to 0.94? That knocks us off. So there is a quite significant difference, I would think, if that's the case. So vertical and horizontal does kind of make a difference in this case here. Huh. Very interesting. Alright, so what is the threshold for the horizontal one? So we can do 0.5. Yep, that works fine. Can we do, for the sake of it, 0.9? Okay, so it is that threshold. So it's 0.9 area. So 0.92 is fine. 0.93 is fine. And 0.94 is fine. And then we do 0.95, we're off. Okay, so the threshold is pretty much 0.94. Less than 1 still. So that is an interesting aspect to the ladder system. So if there's any random rotations or movements, it will knock you off. So you gotta take it slow in order to make this kind of work. So if I were to change this here, the gyro system also has RPMs, and the max RPM you can go is going to be 30 RPMs. But the good thing about the gyroscope is that it starts a lot slower. As you see in the bottom right on toolbar 8 and 9, if I go in the positive sense, it's all point something until a fair bit of amount you hit 1. And this way it's slow enough to boost you pretty far into 30 RPMs. Yeah, so once you go from like 12 RPMs to 30 RPMs by doing increase override or decrease override, if you do too fast, you can pop right off of it. So that's kind of the test there. So it isn't necessarily how fast you're going, it's just how fast you change from one RPM to the next RPM, which is what's going to jolt you off of the ladder system. So of course, why not try it with some pistons? So using pistons, honestly, I don't think it's going to do too much because the piston system does move fairly slowly. So if we were to increase, oh, that's the wrong one. So if we were to increase the speed of the piston, and right now we are on the max negative, and we just hit reverse, we're still not going to fall off of it, as you see here. There's no real large jolting action to it. It's a slow push up and down, and you just cling on to the ladder system without any issues that way, which is, I guess, a good thing in some ways. If we do the horizontal sense of it, same thing. It's slow enough so that you can just keep pressing increase velocity and hit reverse, and it's not going to do too much to you at all. So that's awesome. So why not try it with a hinge system? So the hinge system down there with the block here, let's remote into the station. And if we do the RPMs this way, as if we were to do it on the other side here, I believe we're going to run into issues. So we go from 0 RPMs to the next one, which is 3 RPMs. I come right off of it. Okay, so I think it's going to be the same concept as the rotor system. So if I went to control the hinge manually, which would be this one, and we change the velocity slowly, yep, it works fine until you hit something which kind of jolts you to it. So that's the same aspect as the rotor. So once again, ladder system, you cling onto it as long as you can, unless you kind of do a sudden movement or jolt that kind of flings you off of it. So that's pretty much the experiment there, to kind of test that out. And for fun, as you saw in our co-op series, we did the rope with the hinges, and I added a ladder system here. I was thinking like a helicopter, like my drone I made in that series, with a ladder system like this, or rope ladder system would be pretty cool to have. So it's interesting, but once again, any little jolty movements, you're pretty much going to come right off of this. So if I were to increase or decrease the velocity of the rotor above, up there, I believe we're just going to fall right off once we start jolting at 0 to 3 RPMs. Actually, no, it's slow enough that it won't. Oh, but we are going to sway. So if we sway too much, maybe it will come off. I'm not sure. But we could probably keep this at 3 RPMs and see what happens. I think we're going to reach the top of here before falling off. So I guess this is slow enough. Just slow enough for it to work. But I think the further we go up, the more we're going to start swaying. So that might be somewhat of an issue. Alright, so let's just keep an eye on this. And yeah, I think we're just going to go up slowly, so it's not going to make too much of a jolting action unless we're going to start swaying too much. But it looks fine. Not terrible whatsoever. So that makes for an interesting thing to have. Maybe, like I was saying, have a rope ladder system on a helicopter or something like that. This potentially will work. Alright, so interesting enough, that kind of worked out. Was pretty unexpected. I did play around with it a little bit earlier, and every time I was swaying too much, it jolted me right off of it. But this seems to work out pretty well. So that's an interesting thing to kind of have. Alright, so what else is left to do? Let's go up into space. Alright, so we're up in space. We haven't really done a lot of experimenting up in space, but just for fun, first thing I want to test out, that's not related to ladders, but it was kind of related to riding in style. And when we're in space, there's something cool that we can do, and that is lock in with our magnetic boots. See, it's when you see it's green, we are locked in and we can walk around the platform without flying off of it and everything like that. So what I want to test out, I wasn't too sure, is can we remote into what we're magnetized on with our boots and actually fly with it and not fall off. So if we remote control in here and we start moving it around, it looks fine, but it does look like we are kind of swaying off of it a little bit. So I'm actually a little backwards, but it's fine. So if I fly forward, I'm sliding a little off of it, which is not good. So I was hoping that actually stuck to the platform a little bit better, but it looks like my legs are shrinking. It's going up and I'm off. Okay, so that did not work whatsoever. So that's interesting aspect of it. So hoping to have kind of like a Green Goblin, like a vehicle kind of thing that you can stand on and get stuck on, but that didn't work out. But anyways, we have another test here with the ladder this time, and as was commented, what would happen if you were to stick onto the ladder, hit the jump drive, and let it warp? Will you go with it, or would you kind of get stranded here? So let's just see how that's gonna work out. Let's just put a remote control and the antenna here, so we can just remote control into it just for fun. And here we go. So we remote control into this transport. There is a or two jump drives, so we can always use this and hit jump. But first, what we want to do is kind of program the jump drives to do a max distance, and I guess we could do a blind jump, which is fine. Alright, so what we're gonna do, I don't know which is which, but let's just put both of them down and hit jump. Alright, so we are on the ladder. I haven't tested this whatsoever, so let's just see what is going to happen. So let's hit jump. We're okay with this blind jump, and it looks like we are about to head off into hyperspace. And we've arrived. So I am still on the ladder. We get off of it, and where are we? We jumped far away. So we do fly away with the vehicle or ship as long as you are in the ladder. That's interesting. So you don't necessarily need to be in the cockpit. So if you're desperate and or for any reasons why you need to like kind of hitchhike, a ladder might work. Interesting. Alright, so another neat thing I saw in the comments was somebody stating that they put some thrusters on a couch and made it workable. So I have here, once again, riding in style, but this time in a couch. However, the system doesn't actually work because once you're in the couch, you cannot remote in. And that is mainly because we do not have an antenna on the large grid couch there. So we can fly remotely, it can act like a drone for whatever reasons, but when I get inside of it, as you see here, I cannot remote into it and fly it. So this system was the most compact system I can think of to put on a couch, and that is using the new magnetic plates here to connect to the back. And this part is the drone system, and this is the large grid piece of it. So yeah, no antenna, we cannot connect to it. So that is a bit of the issue there. So not much we can do about it, except for potentially creating these things here, which is a large rotor head attached to a small rotor in the inside with some batteries, thrusters, and everything like that. So this one, because we are all connected into the large grid, into the small grid, we can actually fly this thing as is, because we're connected as a subgrid instead of connected by landing gears. But this is not as compact as the other one, to be honest, so that's the unfortunate piece to it. But if you have another idea of how to piece these all together, making it compact, feel free to let me know down in the description below. But we can once again ride in style instead of a ladder. You can do it in a couch, or for whatever reasons, maybe even in the toilet. So once again, it's connected to this large grid rotor head with a small rotor with the thrusters, batteries, programming block, gyroscope, and all that good stuff connected to this bathroom or toilet here. And that is how we are able to fly this guy. It's not, again, it's not very compact, but with the toilet seat or the toilet itself, this one kind of works. The couch, not so much. I do wish the couch one was able to make it a little bit more compact, to be honest, like I have here. If I really wanted it to kind of say, yeah, it works, I can just hop in here, have my second account remote in, and fly it. But that is not necessarily myself piloting it. It would be a secondary character piloting it. So that is kind of the experiment for today. So the ladder system, once again, it's these big kind of jolts that knock you off of it. It's not necessarily the speed of the rotation. It's just jumping from a 0 to above 0.94 or 95 is what makes you come off the ladder. So that's how come when we were flying the vehicles or ships, if we spun too quickly, it kind of jolts us off of the ladder system here. But of course, that was a fun, quick little experiment to see how the ladder systems really work, in addition to riding style. So I have a couple more experience to play around with. So hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.